Carl Jung said, "Unless we understand the process of psychological differentiation, we will remain prisoners of our own prejudices." This sentence takes us straight to the heart of one of his most influential works, The Theory of Psychological Types. In it, Jung proposed that in order to understand the complexity of the human being, it was essential to explore the different ways in which people perceive and interact with the world. But what exactly does this mean? Imagine that over the course of our lives, we all develop specific ways of seeing the world, reacting to situations, and making decisions. Some people prefer solitude and introspection, while others feel more at home in groups and social activities. Some make decisions logically and rationally, while others are guided by emotions and feelings. This diversity of approaches is not a defect or a question of right or wrong. On the contrary, for Jung, this variety is what makes us unique. Jung formulated his theory of psychological types from the observation that this diversity has deep roots in the unconscious and in the psychic structures that govern human behavior. He divided these ways of being into different types, which together form the basis for our understanding of human personalities. The question then naturally arises, how do these types influence our lives? And more importantly, how can we understand and work with these differences in ourselves and others? To do this, let's explore in depth the main psychological types defined by Jung and understand how they shape who we are and the way we experience the world around us. Jung's theory of psychological types is one of the richest and most impactful contributions to analytical psychology. To understand it, we first need to understand the way Jung divides the human psyche. He suggests that there are two major axes of differentiation that organize our personality: attitude and psychological functions. Jung describes two fundamental poles of psychological attitude: introversion and extroversion. These two orientations determine how each individual deals with the external and internal world. Extroversion. The extrovert is the person whose energy is turned outwards, towards the world of people, objects, and external events. They feel more comfortable and revitalized in situations of social interaction and tend to adapt to their surroundings. Introversion. The introvert, on the other hand, turns their energy towards the internal world of thoughts, feelings, and reflections. They prefer more private environments where they can contemplate their own ideas and feelings. If you want to understand more about the extrovert and introvert types and how this psychological attitude influences your choices and relationships, watch the exclusive videos about these types here on the channel. Jung made it clear that no one is completely extroverted or completely introverted. All human beings have a bit of both types inside them, but each person tends to lean more towards one of the two sides, thus defining their dominant attitude. In addition to attitude, Jung describes 4 psychological functions that we all possess, but which we use in different ways. These functions help us to deal with the world and life's experiences in different ways. 1. Thinking. This refers to the use of logic and reason to make decisions. Those whose thinking is dominant tend to be analytical, rational, and focused on rules and principles. 2. Feeling. This involves making decisions based on personal values and emotions. People who use feeling as their dominant function prioritize harmony and emotional relationships in their choices. 3. Sensation. This is the use of the senses to perceive reality in a concrete and immediate way. Individuals who predominate in this function are practical and observe the world through what is tangible. 4. Intuition. This relates to the perception of possibilities and patterns that are beyond the immediate. Intuitive people are visionary, creative, and are guided by what could be, rather than what already is. These functions, combined with the attitudes of extroversion or introversion, form a unique psychological type for each individual, creating a rich and complex diversity of personalities. Thus, understanding these typologies is essential to understanding how we react to the world and how others do too. To better understand how Jung's psychological types operate in everyday life, let's illustrate with some practical examples of how these characteristics shape our decisions, interactions, and even our personal challenges. Imagine a situation in which a couple, made up of a predominantly extroverted individual and an introverted one, face communication difficulties. The extrovert, on returning from work, wants to share everything that has happened during the day, seek out each other's company, and have intense conversations. For them, this socializing process is a way of relaxing and recharging their energy. The introvert, on the other hand, after a long day, feels the need for some solitude and introspection before feeling ready to talk. Me too. This kind of mismatch of needs is common, but can lead to conflicts if both are not aware of their own psychological preferences and those of their partner. The extrovert may interpret the introvert's more reserved behavior as disinterest, while the introvert may feel that the extrovert doesn't respect their need for space. Here, knowledge of Jung's psychological types can help bring mutual understanding. Recognizing that these differences are natural and part of each other's functioning can create empathy and tolerance. By understanding that one partner seeks energy in the outer world and the other in the inner world, the couple can find a healthy balance. Now think of a person who needs to make an important decision about their career. They may be torn between two paths, following a profession that promises financial stability and growth, or an option that brings greater emotional satisfaction and a stronger connection with their personal values. This decision may reveal the dominant influence of two opposing psychological functions, thinking and feeling. If thinking is the dominant function, the person will probably weigh up the pros and cons rationally, considering the opportunities for growth, financial security, and social status. Feeling, on the other hand, will focus on emotional questions. Is this in line with what I really love to do? Or how will this choice affect my happiness and relationships? The importance of recognizing these functions lies in the fact that by bringing to light the decision-making process that takes place in the unconscious, the individual can balance their choices. They can consciously reflect on what is really important to them, without letting one function dominate the other in a unilateral way. A work environment can illustrate the clash between the functions of sensation and intuition. Imagine two colleagues working on a creative project. One of them, whose dominant function is sensation, focuses on the practical details. How can we execute this efficiently? What are the concrete steps we need to take? The intuitive colleague, on the other hand, may be more concerned with the overall vision of the project. What new possibilities can we explore? How can this impact the future of the company? These different approaches can lead to frustration if there is no understanding. The intuitive may feel that their colleague is caught up in small, immediate issues, while the sensory may be irritated by the lack of attention to practical details. However, once both understand their psychological preferences, they can complement each other. The sensing type can ensure that the plan is executable, while the intuitive type can offer insights into the long-term impact, bringing innovation to the project. These examples demonstrate how Jung's psychological types can affect our interactions, choices, and even the way we deal with everyday challenges. Each type has its strengths and limitations, and understanding our own psychological structure helps us to make more conscious decisions and relate more harmoniously to others. Now that we know how Jung's psychological types manifest in everyday life, we can delve even deeper into the relationship between these types and the individuation process. For Jung, understanding and integrating these different psychological functions and attitudes is an essential step towards achieving wholeness of being. The process of individuation, one of the pillars of Jung's analytical psychology, is the way in which we become who we really are, that is, a unique and authentic being. In this process, one of the most important tasks is to integrate the functions and attitudes that we normally repress or ignore. This means that if you are a highly rational person, dominant thinking, for example, the development of feeling, that is, giving more value to your own feelings and those of others, will be a fundamental step for your inner growth. This integration is fundamental because, according to Jung, our psyche seeks balance. When we over-identify with one function or attitude, the opposite function, the shadow, according to Jung, remains unconscious and manifests itself in dysfunctional ways. An extreme extrovert, for example, can ignore their need for introspection and end up feeling exhausted or superficial. A person dominated by intuition, on the other hand, can become disconnected from practical realities, which can lead to concrete frustrations in life. Jung also talks about the importance of the collective unconscious in the individuation process. Archetypes such as the sage, the hero, or the puer aeternus, eternal youth, are forms of psychic energy that profoundly influence our behavior and choices. Each psychological type is associated with certain archetypes which, when made conscious, can help us to better understand our repetitive patterns and limitations. For example, the introvert may be influenced by the hermit archetype, which seeks isolation and inner wisdom, while the extrovert may connect with the hero archetype, which craves external challenges and visible achievements. The process of individuation, therefore, involves bringing these aspects to light, allowing us to live in a more balanced and fulfilling way. When we accept and integrate the different psychological types within us, we are one step closer to the inner freedom that Jung emphasized so much. We want to know what you think. Did you manage to find out what your psychological type is? Let us know in the comments whether you identify more with introversion or extroversion, and which psychological functions, thinking, feeling, sensation, or intuition, seem to dominate your decisions. Share your experience with us to deepen our self-knowledge.